Welcome to SHIP Region 5 SHPEtinas virtual conference series, a conference to inspire, empower, and educate women in STEM. We had 8 fantastic speakers, and we are so excited to share their sessions on our channel. We hope you enjoy. Our 6th session was hosted by Ms. Rosa Puga. Rosa is currently an applications engineer at Lockheed Martin in Fort Worth, Texas. Rosa obtained her Bachelor of Science in Manufacturing Engineering from the University of Texas Pan American in 2006. Rosa has been recognized numerous times within Lockheed and CHIP, including the Lockheed Martin Nova Corporate Award for Technical Excellence, Aero Star Award for Technical and Innovation Excellence, and Juniper Sierra Award. In addition to her career, she dedicates a good portion of her time in giving back to the community. Rosa currently volunteers for the SHIP at El Amero chapter as a scholarship director, as well as serving as a supportive advocate for various STEM outreach initiatives like Noche de Ciencias, SHIP Junior, and Industry Days. We hope you enjoy Rosa's session as she talks about approaching crucial conversations.
Travel, right? Get those resources to go to those locations because of the unfortunate event. But so I found this as an opportunity, and I did go to the SHIP seminar that they had, and I went to the resume room where they were able to help me with my resume. And I recall going about 2 or 3 times to make sure it was like perfect, because I didn't want that to be a factor where they would see something wrong in the resume and then set it aside. So I put in the time there, and as I went into the SHIP National Conference, I saw all these booths. I was a little bit shocked. I mean, I knew I wasn't gonna expect to see all these different companies, but I never imagined like there was like so many students. I felt like it was just a rush of so many things happening at once, right? And so I instantly said to myself, okay, go to the companies that are on the bottom of your list, and go to the ones that, you know, on the top of your list towards the end. That way you're better prepared and you get a little bit more comfortable talking to the recruiters. So I went ahead and did that. And then after I came back from the conference, I didn't have a job offer at the conference, but a few days later, I did get a message on my prepaid phone, and I was in I think Mr. Taraune's class or something like that when I got the phone call. And then when the class ended, I checked my voicemail, and they were indicating to me that for me to call them back for potential for an internship with them. So I called them back, got all the details, and I went to notify my mom, and she was really, really excited about that. But she's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "It's in Fort Worth." She's like, "What?" She's like, "You're having to leave." I'm like, "Mom, but they're gonna pay me on this internship, and they're gonna help me with the housing too." And she, you know, she was really excited about, you know, this opportunity, and she's always been really supportive. And, you know, my mom, you know, she's always shown me that there is going to be struggles in life, but it's, you know, how you get past them that allows you to improve your situation, right? Think of things as opportunities. So I did get a chance to go to the internship, and it was specifically for the F2 program. It's a Japanese fighter. Lockheed was subcontracted to do the wing box and the leading edge flap. And it was a smaller group of engineers that I was assisting. And I did get to learn a lot of the processes and all that good stuff. But one of the key elements that helped me during that first internship is I knew I still had some time before I actually graduated. So I made sure I networked with other managers, other engineers, and, you know, there was other people I didn't know, and I was like, okay, think of this as an opportunity, not just do your job, but also try to see if there's opportunity to network. So I did do that, and that helped me. And then a semester before I was supposed to graduate, I did contact the manager that had been to my presentation, my end of the internship presentation, and told him that I was interested in getting another internship because I only had one semester left and I had that summer free. So he had told me he really wanted me for this position that he had open, but they had just signed the paperwork for another internship, for another intern to like take on that role. But he's like, let me see what I could do. Let me pass on to a different senior manager to see what he could do, because I've known how you've executed on your prior internships, and I really like the work you put in. So as a result, I did get a call from another senior manager, and we had like an hour conversation. So I had to remember all the stuff that I did in my prior internship, and I went over some of the things I did, I executed, and that led to my second internship at Lockheed. And as a result, you know, I was able to get a job offer from Lockheed. But in addition to that, I also had applied to other companies, and I got a different job offer from a different aerospace company. And I was able to talk to the HR recruiter and get a counter offer for that. And that really helped me, because before I graduated, I had in mind what I was expecting. And you know, I always try to push myself to have higher expectations of, you know, what I want in life. And to me, you know, there is going to be challenges, but it's, you know, how you follow through with them, right? So I was super excited. I had to move to Fort Worth. You know, I had to tell my mom that I was moving here to Fort Worth, and I was like the first one in my family to actually leave the Valley. So that was a little bit different, because right now everybody's still in the Valley, and you know, this was a good opportunity for me, and I have really liked the DFW area. It's everything I've been doing here. It's been incredible. The job I have and the STEM outreach I do, you know, with the other professionals as well. I think it's fantastic. So as far as Lockheed Martin corporations, I'm in the aeronautics, as you can see here. That's where they do the F-35. They have tactical fighters. They have advanced development programs. And basically, you know, that's at different clearance levels, and it's new programs and such, and what the future is going to look like, right? Potentially. And then sustainment operations. And then you have other areas like missiles and fire control. I know there's a location in Grand Prairie. There's space systems and also rotary mission systems. So there's also different locations where one could actually work at Lockheed. You know, there's different sites as well and different positions. So don't think because, like, you know, you get an engineering role, you're going to be doing the exact same thing. It just depends what the mission of that specific department is and what their goals are to try to accomplish their deliverables, and each of them are different. So as far as what I do at Lockheed, so here you can see they're doing the assembly of the F-35 along the production line. So I get to look at the existing processes, do optimization, new technology development, research and integration. So basically we have to look at trying to do some of these processes cheaper, better, and faster, right? So I work with automation technologies. Sometimes we have to prototype stuff. I get to work with metal printers and also 3D printers as well. Look at different processes and getting those approved. A lot of the things I do on a daily basis is not just, you know, doing analysis on the computer. I get to execute my task by doing a lot of coordination with other representatives. If it's learning a new process, I get to go talk to the mechanics, talk to the supervisors. It could be, you know, pitching a presentation to high-level management, where I have to prepare test evaluation results. You know, if I have a new project, I might have to go to a different location in the factory, and you know, the factory is about 1 mile long. So, you know, with all the projects that I have, they're in different locations. So usually what I have to end up doing is using the golf cart to get to all these different locations. And a lot of the times, you know, what ends up happening is you'll have these meetings with different representatives sometimes you'll get to like teleconference at different locations, or there'll be a new need and you have the expertise in that specific area. So you'll be giving advice to other business units as well, not just the aeronautic division. I've had an opportunity to travel. I've gone to like Florida, Virginia, California, and just recently this past year, I got an opportunity to go to Japan. So that was an incredible experience. However, when I had to go, it was when that like Category 5 typhoon was happening over there. So, but I was able to work around that. Anyway, I got to my destination safe. I'm back here. Woohoo! So here you see a picture of what looks like a concha on the right-hand side. It looks like a Mexican concha. I had to bring this up, you guys. So the Mexican concha, I was like, is that a Mexican concha? Like, it really looks like one. So they make these fresh, and I bit into it, and it tasted like the concha, but it was maybe a little bit sweeter, and because it was made fresh, like I felt like it melted in my mouth. It was so delicious. I got to experience a sushi conveyor belt scenario where I ordered my sushi with the touchscreen, and it came with in the conveyor. They freshly prepared it. So I don't know if they have any of those type of sushi setups here, but I thought that was great because it was really fresh and it was delicious. So I also got to experience the Japanese culture, and they are very wonderful people to work with. They are so polite, and I just thought it was such a fabulous experience to get to go to an international site and actually be able to make an impact. So that was great. And I'm gonna go to the next slide. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started now. I gave you like a little brief overview of what I do. So I'm going to be talking about approaching crucial conversations, and specifically some of the material I got is from the Crucial Conversations book, which gives you different steps to take when there's a crucial conversation that has to take place. And it's by Patterson, so the second edition. So just wanted to let everybody know, if you are interested in reading it, it has more details than I would be able to provide during this presentation. So get started. Okay. So let me go ahead and move this for a second. Light. Okay. So what consists of a crucial conversation? A crucial conversation is when you have differences in opinion, and there's going to be high stakes involved, and there's really strong emotions going on. So that would consist of what a crucial conversation is. And examples of that could include a performance evaluation, right? If management is giving you feedback and you're not agreeing with the evaluation, it's going to actually have an impact to your quality of life, right? Whatever you were anticipating that performance evaluation to be, and then it was different from what you expected, and you're not in agreement with the feedback that was provided, and that would create a substantial impact, right? If you're also providing somebody with behavioral feedback, right? Say you had a task that you designated for somebody to perform, and they were short of what was provided to them as far as how they were actually supposed to deliver on that task, and also, how they're lacking in, in some of the items and areas there. Or it could be, a role in a project. I know at the university, you are engaged in different group assignments. So what ends up happening is, there's different roles in a project, and somebody's not performing to what they're expected to do in their portion of the project. So that's when a crucial conversation needs to happen, because it's going to impact your grade, right? The overall grade of you and everybody else. The other thing, it could be also linked to a crucial conversation with your family. If you have a couple of job offers and you're wanting to move to a different location that's far away from your family, you also have to have that crucial conversation with them, because there's strong emotions involved and they have a difference in opinion, and this is part of your what your next step in your life. The other thing is, if you get a job offer and you're not in agreement with the professional worth that was indicated, then a crucial conversation has to be initiated there with them, to help make sure that it's in line with what you researched in that area. So there's different options you have when you have to encounter these crucial conversations, right? The one thing people do is they avoid it. So that is something that's unfavorable during these situations. The other one is you take action, but you handle it very poorly, so you don't get the results that you want out of it. And then the other one is you face it, but you're well equipped and skillful to be able to handle it very well, and your outcomes are great. So one of the key elements to having these conversations is to ensure the way you communicate to the other person is in a way where it's not going to transpire into an argument, right? And that's linked to the situation being handled very poorly. So what you want to end up, what needs to happen is you need to have a dialogue where you, the other person, or if there's other individuals that are in the conversation, that you're able to express your opinions freely, and nobody feels that they can't express some of their opinions during these conversations, right? So under those circumstances, you end up promoting a good and positive environment. You're able to improve trust, and then as you keep on taking the initiative to make sure it's a dialogue, you're starting to enable personal growth, right, as you move on in your career. So there's some triggers, right, that we have in our everyday world. The triggers that we have is, we have a lot of fatigue. We have deadlines at school or work. We have a bunch of family responsibilities that we have to take care of, right? And it's like, okay, we feel like sometimes we're in a time crunch, right? And then sometimes, there's people that are also having to manage school and work. So that in itself, is a challenge. And when you're having to deal with these situations, not only, as a situation happens, but you also have other stress triggers that are involved. So back in the day, the triggers we would end up responding them. Basically, if we felt we were going to be under attack with this ferocious lion, right? And our responses would be like to fight back, flight or freeze, right? Depending what type of predator it was, right? So one of the things we want to make sure is, in the fight mode, you fully understand what's going on. There's closed-mindedness, the other person becomes defensive, you could tell it, and you could tell by their body language, and then they start blaming, right? And there's just so much aggression that happens there, and you surely want to make sure you fully understand what's happening at the time and be able to pinpoint it quickly. The next one is flight, and this is when you feel a need to quickly leave the situation. You're compulsive. The way you cope with these situations that trigger the stress, in you is, you leave. You simply don't want to deal with it. And then there's the freeze, right? So the challenging part here is your silence. You feel so stuck. You're doing everything to avoid, and it feels like you want to say something, but you can't. You feel butterflies in your stomach. It's just a very unfavorable situation. And you're not sure how to get out of there, but you're also not doing anything about it either. So I'm going to touch base on the 7 principles that are addressed from the book, which is start from the heart, look and learn, make it safe, master your stories, state your path, and explore others' paths, and then move to action. So, all right. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you get unstuck. When you are starting to initiate the conversation, you want to understand that there's there could be a possibility that, you know, that the communication that's going on, might be something that's not working, right? What ends up happening is a lot of times with, you know, the different personalities that we have impulses. These impulses allow like blood to rush, you know, through our veins, or our stomachs just feeling queasy, and we want to say something, and the way we're communicating is not coming out correctly. So at that point, you need to make sure your motives are re-examined. You know, everything that's being said, there could be a lot of disagreements happening in there, and I want to hit on this point. You want to make sure you're persuasive, not abrasive. So, and ensure you're not losing focus on the goal. One of the quotes from the book that I really liked, and I want you to remember this, right? If you're having a situation happen like that where, you know, things are starting to escalate and stuff, remember, the quote is, speak when you are angry and you will make the best speech you will ever regret. So just remember that. I put that in bulletized point because I really like that quote. I'm like, yeah, it resonates. So the challenge that we have is, you know, growing up, you know, we were in competitions, and we always have this mentality we want to win, right? So, and your parents tell you when you're growing up, okay, we need to win this competition, right? So a lot of times when, you know, we end up having these crucial conversations, we end up having the wrong intent, which is winning. And I want to make sure you separate yourself from that specific, you know, motive right there. You want to make sure and keep the peace, right? That should be your number one goal, and also refocus on what your initiative is. But this would be an opportunity to influence other individuals, right? So your focus should make sure that, you know, that the conversations are not diverting, and you always want to ask yourself, what is it that you want for yourself or others? And the environment that this should be happening, you should be able to freely like give inputs and also receive them back. I think that's very important. So if you have this mentality where you're supposed to, you know, win when you have these type of challenges, please detach that and remember to try to keep the peace and provide an opportunity there. So the second item, the second principle consists of looking and learning. So there's different conditions that could happen, right? There could be masking where somebody's having the conversation and, you know, they're being sarcastic with you, and you're like, they're also sugarcoating, or they're just not participating and they're very disengaging, right? The other item, which is really, really challenging, is when there's attacking, verbal attack, somebody's controlling, labeling. And, you know, during this process of identification, you also want to make sure, this is very, very critical, to self-monitor yourself. Like, how are you behaving? Am I becoming silent? Am I saying things that could be offensive? Make sure and, you know, recheck yourself there. Remember, these are going to be very, very delicate conversations. And the way you actually tone the conversation is very critical, your body language. And you need to make sure and understand that, you know, the strategy that you were initially using, or you said something, it's not functioning. Just remember that you know, if you're seeing any of these situations happen, you're monitoring everything that's happening and fully understanding it. And the next approach, once it's been detected, you want to make sure and make it safe. So it could be a little overwhelming when these situations are occurring, and sometimes you just have to take a step back from the conversation in order for, you know, for it to become a more safe environment. You wanna ask yourself this, right? Am I giving the perception towards the common interest? Is there a mutual purpose, right? Is there mutual respect, right? Do others believe I respect them? If somebody were to film you when you were responding, would you actually, when you actually look back at that video, would you actually think you were being respectful? So that's really, really critical to fully understand, you know, how you're acting and how you're being perceived to others. One of the essential skills for, you know, for this dialogue where everybody's freely communicating with each other is, if you do say something that, you know, lacks some respect and or it slipped out, make sure you apologize for it. I feel like, you know, that is very critical to make sure you're trying to get back into that, you know, safe conversational environment. So one of the other items that was identified is, you know, if there is misunderstanding, they call it contrast. When you're not apologizing, but you're just providing clarification of what your actual purpose is, right? There's other approaches, right? You're wanting to create a mutual purpose, and in order to do that, you wanna commit yourself to kind of brainstorm and try to see what the longer term purpose is, right? In order to find that mutual purpose. And at the bottom, I put words utilized matter, because that is very, very critical as you're approaching these conversations, right? So they discuss this shared pool of meaning, right? Where on the outside, you know, we feel there's violence or there could be silence, right? And then you have your thoughts and your perceptions, but you want to make sure and, you know, try to see, you know, if there's equivalency in some opinions, right? So that's your thoughts, right? Try to go into the shared pair of meaning and also bring others to do so as well. So this other one is, you have to master your stories. That's the next principle, right? When you're actually, you know, providing input to others, you want to make sure and stay very composed. Don't let the emotions that you're having at that moment drive your story. The most important thing to remember is when you provide input on your thoughts and all that stuff, these stories that you're providing to others, these are your interpretation of the facts. So if you're not clear and concise, that's where it'll become even more challenging. So just remember that. And how are your behaviors and actions being perceived? So somebody that has become skillful at this, they're gonna know when the deviations occur quickly, right? And they're gonna know how to move forward on that path. So you wanna state your path, right? Add to this pool of meaning, especially when there's these controversial opinions, right? There could be another person you're talking to or multiple individuals you're talking to. So when you have the skilled speakers, they're gonna be able to safely convey the message. They're gonna have confidence when they're conveying this message, but also have humility and also skill. So I do want to touch on this. You know, when you're providing inputs to others, instead of saying the fact is, right, you might be coming too strong there. You might want to soften it down and say, in my opinion, right? Just trying to get into that pool of meaning, right? And then it's clear to me, like you could say something like that, but instead of saying it like that, you could be like, I'm beginning to wonder, X, Y, or Z, right? So make it safe so you can share your thoughts, and others could also share their thoughts. And there might be something that you also missed, right, during these conversations, or something got overlooked where somebody that, was silent could be able to add in there. And you're just wanting to geared towards providing this healthy dialogue right there. Explore others' paths, right? When others become silent or violent, there's another like critical element happening there, another underlying source. You want to step back and wait for their emotions to subside. If it was somebody where it was creating like, some very unfavorable arguments and such, and it was just becoming, a little bit more on the hostile side, you want to make sure and just step back a little bit. And when you're starting to ask questions to them, let them know that you're interested in their viewpoints, because maybe, there's something that there's missing. So when you mirror them, you encourage others to share information. So you say, I would like to hear your thoughts. Please let me know if you see this differently. So, and it's created through providing an appropriate body language and also tone. So, instead of you having a tone level of 8 during that conversation, tone it down to a 6. You know what I mean? If you notice a difference in tone levels, that's going to be very substantial to be able to make this work. Paraphrase what the message that they provided, right? Be very calm and composed. They may have more to share. So when things are actually getting nowhere, you want to make sure and prime. So provide your view of what they may be thinking. So if there is a point that has been provided, you want to try to see if, and you agree in that approach, even if it's the small things, you want to make sure and let them know that. And then you could build on that and start comparing the ideas. So when all that takes place, you want to make sure, and if it's a larger group, a lot of times you have to determine, well, who's going to make the final decision on that. The final choice, command is when somebody we trust actually makes that choice. We don't want to make it ourselves, right? Also consult, right? Invite others to influence before we actually want to find out what the final decision is to, these crucial conversations. Vote. So, it depends on the percentages, right, of the people that voted, but you never want to use, this with, individuals or a group that is never going to agree to support. So make sure to deviate from this method if that's the case. And then a consensus is more when you have very high stakes and it's becoming very, very complex, but everybody will support the final choice. So the one thing I got from selecting these methods, is you also want to make sure that you have the fewest people possible to make a good decision. I think that is super, super important during the process, right? And also only include people with expertise that could contribute. So, all right. So from my experience, I have been faced with some situations where it has been challenging, but the first step, I knew I needed to take was confront the situations. And during the process, I also made sure and rehearsed what I needed to say to make sure I was clear and concise. But the other thing is understanding how I was saying it and what body language I was using. So that was very important. And when I've actually been able to face these situations, I've also, depending on the scenario, I've also gotten guidance from mentors where I was able to get different and diverse perspectives from them, and kind of saw the approaches that I was going to use towards it, and did it in a more favorable format where I knew I was not going to be offensive to the other individual and such. So this has allowed me to, acquire some individual growth in that area. And the other thing that has also been really beneficial, and I do recommend for everybody, is, during our stressful work school environment, it's good to like stretch, exercise. I feel like that helps us be a little bit more zen. There's also some individuals that I know at work that just speaking with them, the way they bring themselves about to present themselves with other people and talk, like I feel like they have a very, very calming personality, and being around those people also gives me a little bit more zen in my life, let's just say. So yeah, and I wanted to see if anybody had any questions. Is somebody speaking?
Okay, no, thank you, Rosa. No, we
Okay.
don't have any questions at the time. If you want to, if anybody has any other questions, they can send it directly to me, or just unmute themselves.
Okay.
Hi, has this been very useful even like with family situations?
So it depends on what situation you're talking about, right? Because so I guess during my early career and back at home, when I was still living at home before I started my career, right? I I would tend to avoid some of the situations, and that was not helpful. But when you're dealing with family situation, this could definitely be used for for approaching situations with family, work, or what you have, because a lot of times we kind of get stuck in an area, and it's going to continue reoccurring if you don't address it. So I think the biggest challenge I had was going from avoiding it to taking the initiative to take action and face it. So these approaches will help you because you're also working with different personality types as well, and those are challenging in itself. But the approaches taken here, are very optimal approaches to be able to get good results. So a lot of times you might have to also step back and look at the overall picture, depending on the challenges that might need to be addressed.
Hey, Rosie, it's Sam. So
Hey,
I wanted to
Sam.
ask you, great presentation. So in the adaptive communication style, we talked a lot about like kind of like sexual harassment, like guys just doing like locker room talk. And so I
Okay.
remember like a lot of the girls were talking, a lot of the women, not girls, sorry, a lot of the women were talking about how like should they be one of the guys and not say anything, or they're too, like I think, you're too HR crazy. So what is the balance of letting guys be guys and for you to say, hey, this is too much?
So I don't think you should feel like you have to be forced into becoming one of the guys. I think in my personal experience, I don't think that's the correct approach. I think you need to be a little bit more direct with them and let them know that they're not being professional, And sometimes you might have to have a one-on-one with them. But the techniques I've used with like having one-on-ones is you want to kind of like brainstorm what their key points are, something positive about them before you kind of dive into the actual subject with them. So I think that's very important, but you must make sure and address if there's something that is bothering you, because otherwise they're going to continue those behaviors, and they're going to do it, or they could end up doing it around you and somebody else that's younger. And you also want to make sure and kind of set the expectations, right? If we don't want this to continue to happen, then we need to let them know. That way we could see change. If we're thinking how much should we put up with, then that's the wrong approach to take, because we're not making it better for the younger females that are joining our the companies and such. So by them knowing, that was not professional, and you specifically pointing that out, I think that is critical to be able to see these positive changes, happening in the industry, especially in male-dominated industries.
Thanks, Rosie.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question. I thought you had a great presentation, and I loved that quote about like, that's the best speech that you're going to regret. I was like, oh my gosh, I totally agree. And I definitely resonate with when it's a fight flight and like the freeze. I am definitely a flight type of person, and I just want to be like, oh, I don't want to like deal with that right now. So I'm trying to really better myself in that sense. But do you have like any tips for, let's say you have a crucial conversation with a teammate and you guys just won't be able to get on the same page, and it's just really hard to compromise, and you kind of want to just be like, I agree to disagree, Is there like a professional way to handle a situation like that?
Okay, so I guess one of two questions. Is it agreeing or disagreeing on a technical matter of like a deliverable? Or is it something else where it has to do with more behavioral?
More behavioral situations.
Okay. So I think in those situations, where you're kind of going back and forth, it's best to probably talk to like a lead or a manager level, or somebody else that is outside the box. But if you're not in agreement with something, you also need to let them know. That way they fully understand your perception. And when you're giving them the inputs, don't be like, you did this. No. You need to kind of step back and be like, hey, last week this situation happened and this is how I felt based on, and you want to list the facts. This is how you made me feel when X, Y, and Z happened. And I'm wanting to let you know because I feel super uncomfortable. So when you're addressing to them that, how they made you feel, you're not attacking them, but you're like telling them, the facts of the event that happened and how it made you feel. Like, how could somebody argue how you're feeling? They can't.
Thank you. So true.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat from Solange. She asked, what about situations over email/chat?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. So email is one of the things where you could sound one way to one person and sound another way to another. So the approaches that I've used there is I kind of thought of, what to respond. But if it's something that I need to let them know directly because of the way it was worded, and especially if they carbon copied a huge subset of people, I would definitely have a follow-up conversation with them through phone. I mean, you could also email, but I feel like it's more effective to do a phone call, or if you're able to have a one-on-one, and then either, they would respond retracting some information they said, or you would follow up and respond, be like, hey, there was this after that conversation has transpired. So I feel like that has been more beneficial for me, when we have to handle emails and such, because emails is one of those things where, like, okay, I'm reading it. Hey, come take a look at this. Are you reading the same thing that I am? Like, this person is sounding, like they're upset, like, but I don't know if I'm perceiving it different. Give me your input.
And I would also like to add that at work, I've always been told, don't go more than like 2 back and forths. Like, once you get to 2, just pick up the phone or like go to their desk and handle the situation, because you definitely cannot tell. I struggle with this a lot, just what I asked. Why I asked is, I'm like, what does this mean? Are you attacking me or are you not attacking me? I can't tell.
Hey, Rosa, I have a follow-up question on that.
Okay.
So I had a situation like that in which I was kind of like blamed for not doing something and putting like a bunch of people in the email. And my approach was more, okay, I know what I did. I know that what I did was right. And there are things that I might have missed. But the first thing that I did after that was I let my manager know about, hey, this is what's going on. You're gonna hear this. This is where I'm standing. This is where my mistake was, and this is my approach to the problem. Will you give me any input on that?
So I definitely think it depends, like, the circumstance, right? The repercussions that could happen with the incident that you have. So if it's something that you knew was directly going to get to your manager, I've had situations where, I would have to follow up with my management or somebody that, is responsible for that portfolio of projects, because it was going to get to them, like, probably in anywhere from 30 minutes to, somewhere close of business that day. So I do definitely think that was the correct approach if it was gonna get around to the manager very quickly. So and an awareness to them is always beneficial, because you want to make sure and let them know so they could see the overall picture of everything that happened before somebody tells them their perception. And it would take a lot longer, right, to be able to get the full details of the overall picture.
Hey, Rosa.
Uh-huh.
It's Ileana. I had a quick question. So have you ever dealt with any sort of conflict as you're transitioning between teams? And the only reason, even if like within teams, like you're still within the same program, so to call it, right? But sometimes they take it as like, oh, well, you just wanted to leave us. Like, you didn't appreciate the type of opportunities we gave you here, type of thing. And a lot of the times it's, well, no, but I feel like I've gotten what I was supposed to get out of the role, right? Like, you want to leave things off in the best possible way without damaging your relationship. I don't know if you've ever dealt with any of that within your career.
So, I mean, I've had a different team where they were giving me an opportunity, but I knew that wasn't the right role for me. So I did have a follow-up with, that management, telling them of that, and they're like, well, this is a good opportunity. We don't give, these opportunities to just everybody. So I think you need to fully understand, I guess, what the root cause of what they're saying. Like, is there a lot of people leaving the group, or was it, just you leaving? And did you have less than a year in this role?
Yes.
Okay.
It was just around the year time frame, actually.
Okay, so I think maybe from the management side, they might be thinking like this was a good opportunity, and maybe they haven't had other individuals that haven't left the team in less than a year. And I think that's where they're having challenges. But I definitely think it's good to get more clarification on, you know, I guess why they provided you with that feedback.
Okay, I get you.
Kind of understand what they're saying, and then you could let them know like why you wanted to transition to this other role, right? Is there something that intrigues you? Is there new technology? Is, you know, is there other passions that you have and you're trying to increase the, you know, that knowledge in a different sector? So you also need to let them know that, you know, your point of view in that area. And that's if you want to have a follow-up with them to, you know, kind of close that loop there.
Gotcha.
Hey, Rosie, like to follow back to Eliana. So I'm in a very similar situation, and I would say I've seen it where managers have been like, well, I gave you this opportunity, but I'm going to go back to what Robert Colby, a chief engineer, told me. He said, you earned it. Like you did the work. You have the PM. So like, don't let somebody say like, well, I gave you this person, I gave you this this opportunity. It's like, no. You earned it. Like you went through the HR system. They did it. So don't forget that as well, that, you know, knowing your worth. And yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's probably because you left a little bit early. And yeah, going back to the same thing that Rosie said. But just I want to just validate that, you know, just know your worth. Don't let somebody say like, oh, well, I gave you this. Don't let them manipulate you.
Awesome. Thank you.
So true. We actually do have one more question from Evina. Has there ever been a conversation or experience of where you wish that you had done something differently? If you were to do it over, what would you have changed?
Oh, let me pick out of all my conversations. So I did have a project where I was dealing with a very, very critical customer, and there was different representatives involved. Well, I was having to work with somebody externally, right, to be able to meet this deliverable. And I had provided the requirements, right? Everything I did correct on my part. And when I was having the meetings with the external representative, they became more on the aggression side, because they were, what's the word? Because they basically had their agenda on what they wanted to deliver, right? And then that wasn't really fulfilling the requirements that we had. So I do feel like I should have followed up with management. And this is like several years ago, maybe like 6 years ago or something like that. I do feel like I should have contacted my management early on. I probably took like a week to contact them to kind of let them know what was going on, but I didn't realize it was gonna go to that level, right? Where I was still gonna get continuous pushback, even though it was in the requirements document and it was not going to align with that to meet the deliverable. So we had to pull in more people from the management team to have a follow-up, you know, for that specific project. But if there's ever a doubt where you're kind of feeling like kind of stress of the situation just because, you know, the conversations are not going favorable, you know, that is a significant indicator that your management needs to be brought up of the situation, especially like when it has to do with like a very like important project that you're working on. So I say, you know, don't wait too long before you know, let others in the team know about it. That way it could be resolved quicker.
Hi, Rosa. So we have about 2 minutes left, and we have one last question, and I totally resonate with this. There has definitely been some times that I've had a difficult conversation. I started getting really teary-eyed, and I wanted to cry in front of everyone. And so Alejandra asked, are there techniques that you recommend to control emotions and stress when handling a difficult conversation with team members? For example, when something is just not going as planned in a project, and you're trying to find the best course of action.
I would say if the situation, so are you indicating that they're continuously being on the more aggressive side? Okay, so I would try to make sure and try to let them know that that you understand, they know that you understand that from your perspective, you know that this item that's being discussed is important to them as well, right? And hopefully that'll set the tone down. But a lot of times, sometimes they're talking and going at full speed. You might want to let them kind of finish what they need to say sometimes. That way you get an opportunity once they've exhausted, everything they've said. That way, hopefully at that time, you'll be able to try to revert the conversation back to a healthy one. But as far as the, emotion, stress, I do recommend like working out that day, talking to a mentor that day, somebody that you have confidence in. Because I feel like women, we're platicadoras. We want to talk about everything. Come on, tell us. And I'm like, okay, so don't keep it to yourself if that's something that's even introducing more stress. Let somebody that you know and trust, let them know what's happening. I think that will also help you. And somebody that will hear you, right? You don't want somebody that, you can't really talk to about it, because they're going to be like cutting you off when you're trying to like basically let them know what's happening and kind of, make yourself feel better. Somebody that will be positive with you as well. So I think that has helped. And I think that's beneficial, as well as like doing some stretches and exercises and stuff like that, getting the blood flowing in different areas of your body. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rosa. That is time for today for your session. And I am just so glad that you chose this topic, because it is so important, even not in just the workplace, but also when you're a student and you have to deal with people in different projects, even your professor and stuff like that. So I'm so glad. And thank you to the audience for asking such awesome questions. At this time, we're going to be entering our breakout session. So please give Rosa a huge virtual applause and say thank you to her in the chat. This was fantastic. We're going to be breaking out in sessions in about a minute from now. And our facilitators are excited to continue the conversation. And if you have any other questions for Rosa, we'll leave the chat open for right now for like the next minute or so you can ask her any other questions. But thank you so much, Rosa, again for everything. This was fantastic.
And thank you, Susie and Catherine and everybody else from the team. You guys put in so much effort in this. So
we couldn't have done it without you. But also
everybody's doing a great job, and thank you for moving forward and asking questions to everybody. We're here for you guys, and that's important. You guys are the future, so.
If the attendees would like to connect with you, Rosa, because I know you didn't have a LinkedIn, would you be able to provide a contact?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. So send an email to Susie, and then I'll send you my email address, Susie.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to continue staying updated with SHIP Region 5, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Stay connected by following us on all our social media. Our Instagram is at ShipRegion5, our Facebook is at ship.region5, our Twitter is at ship_region5. We hope you could join us live for the second part of our SHPEtinas series. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.